Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important to clarify what happens when a project becomes covered under FAST 41 and the role the Permitting Council plays in facilitating it. The Permitting Council is unique, Executive Director Domenech, because it's an independent, non-regulatory entity that reports directly to the President rather than being housed within a permitting agency. Has the independence contributed to the council's success in coordinating agencies and keeping projects on schedule?
Yes, I believe our independence is critical. I'm very grateful for the hard work from the 13 member agencies that sit on the Permitting Council, but if we sat under one of them, it would be much more difficult for us to encourage those agencies to do their work on time and in a transparent way. So I think our independence is very critical to being able to accomplish that role. And also, frankly, our role as what I consider to be the executing arm for the Office of the President. So I don't set the policy. As you mentioned, we're not a regulatory agency. I'm not a policy entity, but when we get a directive, we know how to go and get it done. I would also say we're very responsive in that independent role to our project developers. Because I'm not a regulator, I'm allowed to really serve as a true advocate for that developer inside this complex federal system. And if we were attached to a regulatory agency like Department of Interior or EPA, we would unfortunately be unable to do that role because we'd be part of a regulatory process.
Does FAST 41 allow agencies to cut corners on environmental reviews?
No, sir. In fact, I actually think it holds them far more accountable to ensure they are meeting all the requirements of the environmental reviews. If you look at the permitting dashboard, you can see every single review that is required for every single project on the dashboard. Whether you are a person in that community or you're a regulator or you're part of that industry. So I think that transparency function really does force agencies to be honest about what's required of them under their statutory requirements, but also what's required for a project sponsor so they don't have to operate in the dark wondering what's expected of them to get their project completed.
Yeah, and you alluded to this, but I'll ask the question anyway. So from your perspective, what are the advantages of qualifying as a covered project under FAST 41? What makes it fast?
So a covered project under FAST 41 has a number of, again, statutory requirements for how we take care of this project. We have, in statute, we have 14 days to tell a project if they qualify for FAST 41. It's entirely voluntary. I must respond to every single project developer, regardless of sector or size or anything else. We have to respond to them within 14 days because that's what's required by the law. We then have 60 days to identify their lead federal agency, their cooperating agencies, any states or tribes that might have a permitting action in that project, and we convene that group with the project sponsor to develop that comprehensive permitting timetable you see on the permitting dashboard. We have to post that in 60 days. So these are some pretty tight timelines to coordinate across multiple agencies and states. And it really does force agencies to come to the table, do their work up front, and communicate with that developer. It also, frankly, keeps developers accountable, which I think is an important part that we often miss in the FAST 41 discussion. If you're a developer who wants to come in and cut corners, don't come to FAST 41 because we aren't going to let you do it. So it's important to be able to have that transparency on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. FAST 41, it doesn't waive environmental laws or eliminate permitting requirements, right? It simply improves sort of the coordination, the accountability, and the predictability across the federal government. Do you think there are projects under the $200 million threshold that could benefit from FAST 41 coverage?
Absolutely. We hear from them all the time. A huge part of our work is, again, meeting with potential developers, meeting with folks in the community, meeting with members of Congress to establish where there's an opportunity for investment and development. I actually think it could allow us to serve sectors we've never served before. I mean, I think, I use the water resources as an example, but that's a place where you can have smaller scale projects, port developments, things like that. Broadband is another one where we've really only been able to serve those projects under our tribal exemption. So it'd be great to be able to get more of those small scale, frankly, very local and rural projects on the dashboard.
Yeah, give us some examples. You used water and broadband as examples. Are there other sectors that you think can benefit?
I think the energy sector always can benefit. There are always smaller scale projects that fit into this umbrella. $200 million is a large investment. I think about we're proving this out with our transparency dashboard, but looking for places where there are discrete developments like geothermal, for example. We have one geothermal project on our dashboard today, but it's actually it's a combined project. So it's geothermal, lithium mining, and processing all in one. If it was just the geothermal piece, it likely wouldn't meet the threshold. So we had to get creative to get it onto the dashboard so that we could support this great project in California. But I think, honestly, we would see projects in every sector if we were to lower the threshold.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.